It begins.
Manuel?
Well, hopefully he'll join.
We think he's unconscious. But...
I don't know what we'll do if he doesn't, because, well, it's his pick this week.
I guess we'll just ask him.
Yeah. He's going to be like, I don't know.
Oh, crap.
It's just something about shoes and oil radiators and commuting.
Stephen Fry across America.
No, that's why Wizard of Oz is Manuel's perfect pick, because it's about someone with shoes going across the new world.
Oh, we're going to pick, is it film round where you have to pick a film about shoes?
How would you be a detective in the Emerald City where you could just commute down the yellow brick road?
Your red slippers.
Now that is the appropriate footwear.
Oh, man.
She's more prepared for the wilderness than Al Pacino.
Right, Ben, why'd you pick these two films?
Ben, why did you pick
that's
Ed Wood, the masterpiece, and Mars Attacks, the opposite of a masterpiece?
Well,
sorry, Rob, you wanted to say it. You did one. Go
Rob,
on.
would you say
it's all right. I was going to go. That's the point, actually. We need to work out whether we're going to do like one after the other or not. And then I was like, nah, whatever. we'll just see what happens.
We should start with Edward first, because that was the first one.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Because obviously, me and Rob was speaking ages ago about, it'd be cool to do like Edward and Mars Attacks back to back, because they're kind of like, one's a film about the director Ed Wood, and one's a film inspired by the director of Ed Wood. So it kind of like is a really good duology kind of dyad of two films, and they're both obviously directed by Tim Burton, who just loves all those old school B-movie schlock movies, those pulp films of the 1950s. And I thought it would be a perfect idea for a double bill, because Tim Burton's style marries really well with all those the weird quirkiness of someone like Ed Wood, who just has all these brilliant ideas, doesn't have quite the talent to pull them off, but he still kind of wants to bring them to life in a way that just is like no one's ever seen before. And there's a lot of heart and love put into his films. And Ed Wood is a really brilliant biopic. I thought was just perfectly what's the word,
Encapsulates.
Yeah, that's a perfect word. it perfectly represents how he was as a person, and how his filmmaking style kind of like not only influenced Tim Burton, but just horror movies in general, and from that era to now in a way. And Mars Attacks was kind of like Tim Burton's tribute to that. Just like, let's just make something so over the top, but still so like entertaining, and so kind of like it works in a ridiculously campy way, and there's a ton of satire that kind of like only
I could miss.
But I know Alex's gonna like refute everything I say, but even so, Mars Attacks is just like, if Ed Wood was given like an $80 million budget, this is what he'd come up with. And I thought that was just a nice homage, and I thought that's why it was a perfect complementary film to Ed Wood, the movie. Yeah, so there you go.
Ed Wood is indeed a fantastic movie, and I don't think anyone's going to dispute that.
Good.
Patrick, I see you.
Pat, you look like you realise that you can't feel your phone in your pocket anymore then.
Huh?
I said it looked like you couldn't feel your phone in your pocket anymore. You was just like... Yeah, no, I love Edward. I mean, like, there's so much good about it. Like, I think even even down to the style of like the cinematography and stuff, like it's all just like one big homage to Edward in it, and I think that's a really cool way to set everything up.
I do think it was nice having Criswell kind of start it off as like a narrator, the same as he does in Plan 9.
Yeah.
And then you go and have like a miniature of Hollywood,
Mm.
kind of go down onto the street level, and I was like, oh fuck, where was the cut? And then I was like, did they actually do like a helicopter shot over Hollywood? And I was like, no, that was a fucking miniature. But he does it very, very seamlessly. Like it's really well, it's really well done. I do feel bad for the actor. I do feel bad for the original Criswell though, because he is now played by Jeffrey Jones, and it's like, imagine being immortalized by a pedo.
Yeah. It's really sad. I mean, I'm not the biggest victim, obviously, but it's really sad that like there's so many films with Jeffrey Jones in that I'm just like, it's a little bit tainted now.
Is he a diddler?
Yeah.
You said the narrator at the start?
Yeah.
You know the guy in the coffin?
No way.
The actor playing him, who's sorry,
not the actual guy. Yeah.
I do want to make this clear.
Ah,
The guy who was the bad guy in Howard the Duck, he was a diddler.
He was a nonce.
Ding ding ding.
Sounded like you just lagged in your own head. He was a nonce.
Oh man.
No, I find Edward such a kind of captivating presence. Like I think Johnny Depp is so fucking good as him. Like I really enjoy just kind of that opening scene is him mouthing the words to his own script, and he's like,
yeah, he's just so in love with his work, and that says it all about him, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's the thing, like, because there's a fine line sometimes between sort of laughing at Edward and laughing with him and that kind of thing. But Johnny Depp he's so perfect in it. Like one of my favourite lines is when they're reading the reviews and he's like, oh, that's not so bad. I've read reviews where they don't even mention the costumes. And it's like, just things like that, man. Like it's just, I don't know, it's like I said, it's that fine line, and I don't think it ever crosses it into going like, look how silly Edward was. Like I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can pay to it.
Yeah.
Is that you've got a film about somebody who made a living out of making films and wasn't very good at making films, but he's never the butt of the joke.
yeah, like I think there's like a point where Sarah Jessica Parker's like yelling at him like you're just making shit and you're wasting your life, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I kind of think that, but I don't think that's fair, like entirely. Like, you know, at least he loves what he's doing. At least other people involved with him seem to like it. Like, you know,
that's
like,
the key thing. His passion drove him, even though he didn't quite have what it had to be the great. Like, obviously, that's one scene I was going to mention. That's one of my favorite scenes where he meets Orson Welles, and because obviously Orson Welles is like, you think of like someone that has the talent and the skill, and he's one of the best directors in the movie making world, or was known to be. And Edward obviously has the same passion as he does, but he doesn't quite have the skill set. But there's still parallels between the both of them in a lot of ways. They both are kind of like lambasted from the studios because they weren't like what everyone wanted to see, and they're just victims of the corporations and stuff. So they had a lot of similarities in a way.
Yeah, he has like a fundamental kind of just misunderstanding of how it works, but like he doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't occur to him that he doesn't understand how it works. And I think that's kind of what, and he really like does care about this stuff. I think if he was like I think if he like did these scenes where he like watches the actors act and then he's like, oh, whatever, cut and print it, you'd be like, oh, what the fuck are you even doing it for? But he's genuinely getting wrapped up in the scenes that they're doing, and he thinks it's brilliant, and he's like, oh my, fuck, perfect, cut and print. And that's something that I find so endearing about him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts of it. I think is that you kind of, I don't think the film ever kind of makes you go like, this guy's an idiot for thinking this. Like it's just like this guy is like so wrapped up in this world and like and to be honest, like if you're in that position of being able to achieve your dream, like I don't think you would be kind of thinking like, oh no, actually this isn't very good. Like you would just be kind of like so stoked about like being in that position.
Yeah, it's like, and like he says in the moment when the guy said, "Would you want to do another take of that?" And he says, "No, it's fine." It's like the audience will suspend their disbelief. And it's like, well, fair enough. They maybe will some things, but in this case, he's so deluded in his own mind that it's perfect. It's like, oh, this is my vision brought to life perfectly. He's like, he's so like in love with what's happening in front of him. He doesn't actually step back and think, actually, this could be a bit better.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He's like deluded, but like what else is he gonna do? Like he just he clearly like loves it. He's dog shit at it, but like, like I think that's just a nice thing of where he sits. And I think that's where this film like has a place. Because if you compare it to like, Pat's gonna hate this. If you compare it to like The Greatest Showman or Tick Boom, and you got John Larson. John Larson has a talent and he wants to make something of it. And he is justified in believing in that talent, and he goes and pursues it. P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman, he doesn't seem to have a talent, but the film seems to think that he does, and you don't see him doing any of the stagecraft or anything. He just goes out and recruits people. He seems to just go out and recruit people who seem to know how to do a show, and he doesn't have, and his involvement is very limited. Ed Wood does not have a talent. Is actually quite bad at it, but like. Pretty much every scene is him being a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And him trying to make a film work. And it's like, man, that's just so cool. Like
the thing about The Greatest Showman, he's basically a con man.
Yeah.
So he's not even a lovable con man because, you know, in real life he was a bit of a
piece of shit.
But yeah, what I liked was the bit where the two blokes are saying to him like, but you, how people gonna believe that gravestone because he just fell over and he's just like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. And it's like when he walks another bit I love is the bit where he walks into the door. It's like, oh, wouldn't you want to take it again because he's walked into the door? It's like, no, he would have had to do that in real life, so it's gonna happen.
It's like he struggles with this every day. I love that.
I thought that's actually a really clever way of filmmaking. It's kind of, you're not being perfection. It's kind of taking this it's like a situational thing, and it probably, I don't know, I've never seen the two films he made. I know about the bit with the squid or the octopus where he's in the water. I know it's quite a classic scene of him actually just wrestling an octopus. But yeah,
that's the thing. I think if you didn't know Ed Wood, you probably would think he was a con man, not unlike P.T. Barnum. But he absolutely is not, and he genuinely gets like quite ratty with like when the Baptists are trying to force him to do his film in a certain way, and he's like, "Fucking no, you don't know what you're doing." And it's like that's how you ingratiate yourself with that character. Like he cares about it.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's like Plan 9 from Outer Space or like any of his films, like they only exist because he cares so much about them. Like it's not because like a studio's looked at it and gone like, oh, we're going to make loads of money from that or we're going to win Oscars with it. Like it's literally just because Ed Wood believed in it to the point that he managed to get it made. And I think that's really nice. Like I'd much rather have somebody like Ed Wood making films now than like just loads and loads of like DC and Marvel movies coming out every couple of months. And it's it's a really nice thing. Like it's just like I said, I think that's the thing that the film does the best, is that although it's somebody who's not very good at this, and like it does such a good job of like showing hope as well, like how he's always like repeating, this is the one I'm going to be remembered for. Like I love that, man. It's I
think they do such a good job of illustrating it, and it is little things like Tor walks into the wall as he's going, and everyone's like, "Fucking hell!" And I'll piss myself laughing, but he's going like, "Oh, that character would have to deal with it in real life." Like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not wrong, but
That's a point, actually. This is Ben's second film that's got a wrestler in it, because that's George the Animal still.
That's true. Yeah.
what was the other one?
He's the one. He's the one with the hairy back, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's basically and he's eating the chicken like in that.
That guy with hair.
Feel my toes. Is his voice actually like that, or is it the original actor from the films? Did he actually have that voice? You know, where he's like really shallow, kind of. Oh. I was like, is it?
It's like he's in the room.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Speaking of voices, I thought the choice of having a voice actor for Orson Welles was just perfect, man. I love that.
Yeah, and it's D'Onofrio as well, and he looks perfect in the
I did not like that choice. I thought
I thought it was brilliant.
I was so aware he was doing a mime, and I was like,
it took you out of the film a bit. The fact
Well,
that
that's
when
the
you
thing, 'cause
watch it, you look at it and go, "What the fuck? Is he my?" It just doesn't work.
It's because we know what D'Onofrio sounds like. It's more obvious.
I think that's on purpose, though, because I think that's another homage to Ed Wood.
yeah.
Yeah, because there was
overdone.
I don't know if you know, Ben, but like what film was it where Bela Lugosi died and then he finished the film without him and just dubbed loads of shit?
Is that not Plan 9?
I don't. Is it? There was one after, wasn't there? Or am I wrong?
Plan 9, was it?
That was in the film.
No, but I'm sure there's another one. But yeah, I just thought it was like a reference to that.
Well, either way, it definitely is a reference to Plan 9 for that reason alone. It's just like, let's just see if we can like homage someone without like using the voice from the person that actually it was supposed to be. But I think it just worked in I could like, as you could say, suspend disbelief, and it kind of like, is this how you remember or imagine Orson Welles to sound like? And that was in Edward's head of that. This is what Orson Welles would sound like.
So maybe
It was
maybe
quite...
Book of Boba Fett is a homage to Edward. Sorry. Yeah, no, I don't think that. I don't know. Okay, yeah, fair enough. It brought me out a bit because I was expecting Vincent D'Onofrio to just use his own voice, but I guess Orson Welles did have a really distinctive voice. But okay, at least there was like reason for it, I suppose.
I mean, I assume that was what it was, but yeah, that's how I took it.
Yeah, there's so many little things that just like endear me to him, like when Baylor's gonna come onto set for the first day, and he's got the loudspeaker, and he's like, "All right, everyone, gather around," and then he starts whispering, but he keeps the megaphone up.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of like, "Just treat him like a normal person," and I was like, "Oh, fucking hell!" That was fucking adorable. Or even like when Plan 9's being like premiered, and he's like, he's doing that thing where he's mouthing along with the lines and stuff, and he's like, perfect, and then like Baylor's character dies off screen, and it's just like this car crash with like this really like comical scream in it, and he's like, perfect. I love it. It's Johnny Depp did a great job. Martin Landau did a good job as well. I thought his Bela Lugosi was.
Yeah, I thought really.
He was wonderful.
I'd say he was probably the best actor in it because he played it so fucking well.
Yeah.
I'd already put him down as like my most enjoyable performance of this year.
Mm-hmm.
I've just done a bit of googling, right, to see what I'm thinking of with Bela Lugosi and Edward. So what I'm thinking of is something called The Final Curtain. But what I've found about it is, so it basically says that he died while working on The Final Curtain, a planned Ed Wood project at the time of his death. So basically, this Final Curtain thing apparently it's a rumor that's not true. So yeah, ignore that.
Fair enough.
I've already forgotten it.
One thing that I really like about it as well is the friendship between Edward and Bela Lugosi. Like they play off one another so well, man. And just yeah, anytime that Boris Karloff's mentioned, it's just it pops me every time. He doesn't deserve to smell my shit.
So I think when he's going to film the octopus scene and he's like doped up, and then he just walks into the clearing and they're like, "How you doing, Baylor?" And he's like, "Let's shoot this fucker." And I was like, "Yes." It's like
yeah, how he sweared like that's great.
Well, it was always really like punchy. Like I wouldn't have said like he was like sweary, like in his performance, but like he swore at certain times, and it just caught me every single time he did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was gonna say like one of my favorite bits for that is when the guy's asking for his autograph and he's like, "Oh, you're a great sidekick to Boris Karloff," and it's just like it's just a way that he just like pops up and he's just like, "Fuck you."
So I showed Eb this bit, and like Martin Landau kind of got a bit involved with us because like we were watching it, and it got to that scene where like Johnny Depp's about to meet him, and he's like in the coffin and stuff, and like I'm gonna explain this really really badly, but we were trying to do Dry February, and Eb was just sitting next to me, and she went, "Fuck, I want a beer," and I was like. And we sort of just kind of looked at each other a couple of times. And then when we looked back, Bela Lugosi was kind of gone. And I was like, yeah. I was like, man, what fucking timing? This guy's he's got brilliant timing, even though he's like fucking dead. Like, talent. Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've been talking a lot.
That's all right, man.
That's
okay.
It's all right.
Oh, fucking point of it.
Well, shut the fuck up. I love the bit of the octopus as well.
It's a great thing. You know, especially when he's getting in the water, he's like, "Oh, it's fucking cold."
Fucking cold.
But yeah,
Or even just like with the motor, just like, "Oh, where's the motor?" And he's like, "You didn't mention a motor," and he's like, "Fuck, I didn't." It's like, oh. I was like, yeah, I completely believe that this character would do that. Like,
another bit that got me is the cameraman being colorblind.
Yeah.
What dress you wearing? I'm
Oh, the
colorblind.
dark
And
grey
he just
one.
looks at him like, "What the fuck?"
That's the point, actually. I've not followed tradition of making myself black and white for a black and white film.
Oh,
No.
Oh no!
get out.
There we go. There we go. There we go. We've rectified it.
I've got to do another print screen.
Do you know what? I'd actually say, right, so I mean, I know we're not onto that yet, but I think one of my favourite scenes is just where he's at the public phone and he's like, "Really, worst film you ever saw? Well, my next one will be better."
Yeah, he doesn't like take it to heart, really. He just is like, whatever.
Yeah, I love that, man. I really love that.
You know what's quite telling about it is that we're watching this. Is like he's like, oh, we got. When he's speaking to the producer of what that studio was, I can't remember what it's called, but and he says, "Oh, you've got to make this film in like three. We have to write this film in 3 days, and this is the poster, and you basically have to make a film from a poster in a sense." And it's crazy how like in this day and age, Edward would have like 3 days to write the script and about a week to film it, and then another couple of weeks to make it, and the film's out. Whereas nowadays you've got like three years from like scripting to like on screen, and Edward's films that you can understand why they're shit if he's got 3 days to like write a script from scratch. Compared
Also,
to
if he had 30 days, they'd still be shit.
yeah, but it's just like you have like films nowadays that take like over a year to write with like multiple writers, and they're not much better than something Edward would do. So he's considering the comparison is that, oh, he's managed to make a film on his own like that in such a short amount of time. It's like, well, it's not surprising it's as bad as it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Some take about 11 years.
Yeah.
That's the point, actually. I've just realised that 2 weeks in a row we've had a film about somebody making a B movie.
Yeah.
I lost all memory of what we did at the call, and then I just fucking forget what we did last night.
I preferred the one last week, to be fair.
Oh,
Oh,
fuck off!
he's blown it out of proportion.
Go on, Pat. You have a turn.
It sucked.
I don't really have anything to add to it because I just didn't like it. I wouldn't exactly say it was badly made or shit acted. I just didn't like it.
You were in it.
Mm.
There's the guy, and he says, if you want me to fund your movie, then it needs to end with a giant explosion.
Oh yeah.
I prefer my explosions mid-film.
That's what she said.
I just love that whole thing though. It's like, oh, but it ends with him falling down the pit, and he's like, yeah, not anymore.
Oh man. Do you know, another thing that I think is like really nice about it is that this was made in like what 1994 or something like
A
that.
year after I was born.
So like,
Oh hell.
so this is like like mid
was
90s
that?
where like what was what?
No, those two. It's all right.
Oh.
You carry on.
Yeah, so like mid 90s where you'd expect people to sort of be quite, well, I suppose sort of quite conservative about this kind of thing, but like there's so much sort of like transvestitism and like cross-dressing and like transgender stuff, and it's like it
Bill
treats
Murray
it,
was so
it-
good.
yeah, it's just it's really surprising that it treats it all with like so much respect for a
Yeah.
mid-90s film.
I was going to say that Bill Murray is quite like an understated side character, and he's not really essential to the plot, but he's just so much of a fun character, and it's just like you can see Edward loves him, and they both respect each other and want to be there for each other whenever they have to make a film or they're doing something together. It shows a lot.
I just remembered that bit when he comes back from Mexico and he's like, Mexico was a disaster. My partner got killed. A car got robbed. And if it wasn't for these gentlemen, and then there's just a fucking mariachi band, and he's like, I wouldn't be here today. And then
I love Bill Murray in this, man. He might have my nomination for best supporting actor because I think he's just brilliant.
No, I think Martin Landau gets it for me. But that was the thing. Like they were very quick to stress about it. Like, oh, you like dressing in women's clothing? Are you a puff? And he's like, no, I love sexy women. And it's like, yeah. When you consider it was the 90s, like that, yeah, that's actually like really important to distinguish there. Like you can, like, being a transvestite doesn't make you homosexual necessarily. It's like it's just good to kind of have that. That's how that works, and like having that understanding.
Yeah,
Which makes it even nicer when Patricia Arquette just hears it and she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And it's like, oh, nice, you actually found someone, because it was such a big fucking problem for Sarah Jessica Parker's character. Like,
yeah, she couldn't get past it. It's just like, well, he just liked wearing women's clothing, and that was it.
I think even the way that they tease it out is really nice. Like when he's on the phone to the guy from the studio, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the person he needs to be in charge of this movie," and then she's like, "Why are you the person to make that movie?" And he's like, "Well, it's just pitter patter, you know."
You know, we were watching it, and she starts going like, "Oh, where did that sweater go?" And like he just pans on him, and he's like, "It was like, you know, a lot of my clothes have been missing."
Well, that's why it's a bit.
And I was like,
"Oh man."
No, they handled it really. They handled it really nicely, I think. Like, I don't know, like it's an amusing sort of thing when he's going on about being a paratrooper and he's wearing a brassiere. He's like, I don't mind getting shot, but I don't want to get wounded and people find out about this. It's like,
that was his biggest fear.
That's funny, but like it's not necessarily like again, you're kind of you're not laughing at him for being a transvestite. You're laughing at his attitude to being a transvestite. And I think that's a nice little line to walk.
It's just because of the world he was in. He was like worried about other people's opinions. When that's the sad thing about that time, everyone was like so like bigoted about it. So that's the sad thing.
Because the way he says it, you think it's a joke. So he's like, oh, because that's where I was getting. And then as it goes on, you're like, oh no, he was actually being serious. It's kind of the way he's saying to the bloke, oh yeah, I did this. And I think the bloke's going like, okay, you're just being funny so you can get the role. And then when he finds out he's actually a transvestite, he's like, what the fuck?
I assumed it was a lie at first to like get his foot in the door.
Exactly. That's what I thought as well. And then when you actually it goes on, you're like, oh no, he's actually being truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just another thing, isn't it? Like, because like I said, like I think like this being a film about a bad director and him never being the butt of the joke is like a really nice thing. It's also nice that was never a butt of the joke as well. And considering it was made in the mid-90s, I think that's quite an achievement in itself, really. I think that makes it quite ahead of its time.
I love the fact in the actual film, no one actually kind of there's no kind of hatred to it. Like everyone just kind of goes along with it. Like even when he's in public and people don't really say anything, and I'm just like, man, this is the 50s. They didn't
like Sarah Jessica Parker's like weirded out by it, but he keeps going like, it's only bothering you. And it's like, these are actors, like they're all kind of a bit odd, and it's like they're not the least judgmental people ever, which is another thing. I think what's nice about this stuff, and it's things about him being a soldier, there's more than one way that it manifests. And it's like he loves being a filmmaker because he loves like that escapism, and he loves horror movies, and he loves being around actors because they're not judgmental people of him, and they're all pretending to be people. But it's like him being a soldier, like that's how he starts by that's how he gets Glenn or Glenda. But that is also like how he becomes friends with Bela, because he takes his like adventures out to scare the kid. And it's like, it's really nice that all of this is so interwoven. Like it's not just like, oh, I was a soldier in World War II once, and then it's never brought up again. Like it keeps coming back in like organic ways, and it just makes that a little bit more real and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciated all that.
Yeah.
I think really like I think Tim Burton was probably the perfect person to make this film, because I think
for once.
So I think anyone else, like, because Tim Burton's got quite a nice thing of just being like really accepting of people, and that kind of extends to his characters as well. And I think if you had a director who wasn't that accepting of Edward, then this could have easily been a piece of shit.
Yeah, I think that is, which goes to show it helps you out to be freakishly short.
Yeah. Was it longer than Mars Attacks?
Yeah, it's like 2 hours long.
Yeah. One thing I really loved about Below the Ghosty, or Martin Lando's Below the Ghosty, is that it is a proper circular structure. Is that you see the first thing you see of him is in the coffin trying out a casket, and then the final scene of him being in a real coffin of his own death. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's just like perfect for his character.
They tease it when he's in rehab and stuff.
Yeah, that too.
And
so
like
it happens multiple times, just because of the Dracula collection and all that. But still,
I didn't realize that he was the first celebrity to ever be committed for drug abuse. I think that's what they say in the film.
That's quite interesting, isn't it?
I did not research that in any way. I am just going by what the film said. But he says like I'm not the first ever celebrity to do this, and it was like, oh, that's actually kind of neat. Like just as a connection.
Yeah, it was very sad to see that he'd be getting addicted to something like what was it? He was addicted to morphine or something.
Yeah.
and it just ruined his
with a
life.
Demerol chaser.
Yeah.
He must be hanging. But see, even that I liked because like they didn't use that as a stick to beat him with.
Mm.
And it's like it's an aspect of his character, but like he's not just he's not like Red Guardian and Black Widow. He's not just like a fucking one note joke throughout the whole thing. Like he actually does have like a talent.
Mhm.
And whenever Martin Landau is acting as Bela Lugosi acting, he is fucking killing it. And everyone's I don't know. There are times where I'm kind of sitting there and I'm going like, Jesus, he's fucking great. And it's really nice because Ed's also doing that. And I'm going like, damn, he's really fucking doing it. And it's like, yeah, Bela Lugosi was a really good actor.
Yeah.
And they go through great pains to show that. I think that's really nice.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, although you're laughing at his kind of reactions every time that Boris Karloff gets brought up, like he's shown quite respectfully as well. Like apparently he was even buried in one of his Dracula capes. So he's he's I mean, although he's got kind of like this affiliation with Ed Wood at the end of his career, like he did have like a really sort of important part to play in like sort of early horror himself. So it's
But you kind of get this nice little thing where when he's talking to Ed that first sort of time, and he's going like the true, like, you know, true horrors like the old stuff. Now it's just like giant grasshoppers, giant ants, giant whatever. And it's like, man, yeah, that's kind of that's kind of like reflective of where we are right now, like kind of culturally. we're in the giant ant bit. We used to do subtle stuff. Now we're doing that. And yeah, it's I think the way they treat Bela Lugosi in this is wonderful.
Yeah.
Very respectful. Do you want to do favourite scenes?
Yeah, go for it.
Go on, Pat.
The ending.
To be fair, the
Lugosi
ending was quite nice.
Yeah, the ending was really
No,
good.
when I say the ending,
I know what
I
you
mean the end credits.
Yeah, I know the bit when he's like Ed by there, and then he goes, "Let's go to the desert to get married," and then he's like, "It will stop raining after the first 4
I
hours."
like the font they used for the names.
Yeah,
I do
Good
really
choice.
like the opening credits as well, to be fair, with all the graveyards. That's like the graveyards and the music just go so well together. And it's,
That was really
it's
cool.
really nice.
I really loved that opening credits.
Because like when I put the film on originally, I'd just been out drinking, so I was.
You look like you're reading an auto cue, Pat.
I know. I'm literally
I
just
drank
looking-
like 10 beers, and it was really boring.
I'm literally just looking at my door. Like I had a few beers. I come home. I tried watching it, and then I ended up falling asleep, so I had to finish it the next day. I don't know if that was partially down to having a few beers or the fact that the film was just boring.
I don't think it's bad.
As someone who gets
both.
drunk a lot, I imagine it was probably due to the booze.
I wasn't drunk though.
You might have been though.
Yeah.
No.
Let's not forget, I didn't think I was drunk during the Space Jam call, and then I spent 2 hours saying that I didn't know Michael Jordan's dad was dead.
Yeah.
And I came out of that going, those guys are all dickheads. And then I rewatched it and went, oh, I was actually quite a lot drunker than I thought.
I mean, compared to Alec, you're not that bad, Pat, but you know, I think you were drunk.
Not the best, Alec. But
I still found the film really boring, so I'm going to go down to the film that made me fall asleep and not the booze.
Do you not even find it like the slightest bit endearing?
No, not really.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Well, I guess Pat hated the
I was sat there thinking, why have they made a film about this guy?
What? Oh man.
I mean, it's not being horrible to the actual person, but I mean,
It is a bit. Not being horrible to the actual person.
but
Why did they bother making a
the
film
fuck
about
did
it?
they
the
make
bloke
this
might have been a nice enough bloke, but I mean, what
Tommy
did he
Wiseau,
do
right?
that really warranted it?
Dude, you've seen Plan 9 from outer space.
That was shit too.
That's the point. The point is that it's not very good, and he managed to make it
Why are
anyway.
we
and that's why-
celebrating failure?
It's
You
not
might
a
as well
failure.
make one
It's
of
not a
Michael Bay
failure.
next.
No, because
Oh,
Michael Bay's a right-wing
How
idiot.
dare you say failure? It's that.
Yeah,
it's
well,
a
they
classic.
also made films about Thatcher and fucking what's his face.
Not on my watch. If I was involved, that would. Oh,
Thatcher
man.
and what's his face?
No, I think
Yeah, I love
it's
what's
really
his
lovely,
face.
man. Because another thing I really like about it, and this is something that you couldn't really do about somebody who was like a traditionally good filmmaker, is that like when people talk about kind of like directors and writers and whatever, like a lot of the time it's spoken about as if it's a career rather than like these people are artists. And I think showing Ed Wood as somebody who had like all of this passion but wasn't very good at it, it almost makes the point as well that it's not a career, like it is something that you do because you want to do it. I think that's really nice as well. Like you couldn't do that with somebody who was like you couldn't do that with like I don't know, like a Ridley Scott biopic or something, for example.
I mean, if you had a Ridley Scott biopic, you'd have half his life of him being grumpy bastard.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be as good as Ed Wood.
May as well make a biopic of Alec.
Yeah, who wants to see that? It's just me going, that was shit. That's the thing. Ed's got a lot of, optimism, and he's completely unflappable, and he has this big passion and stuff. That's all the things that I don't have. So like, he's way more compelling than I am.
I think there's like a lot of hope to it as well, man, because it's like I don't like it sort of puts into perspective what the important thing is, because if the thing that's important to you is that like you just want to go and make what you want to make, and like that's it, like regardless of whether anybody else is going to look at it and go, yeah, that's worth watching or whatever, like you just want your thing that you've come up with out in the world. If that's your dream, then this is really hopeful, because I think Ed Wood shows that if you've got enough kind of like drive and determination, it might be possible. I think that's really cool.
The fact that you guys like this film tells me why you like The Room as well.
Yeah, that's exactly why I like The Room. Like a massive part of it is me thinking like this is absolute trash, but Tommy Wiseau was determined enough to get this made, and that's really nice.
But this is a big point of comparison, because if we compare it to, say, The Disaster Artist, where the aim of The Disaster Artist is to go, here's Tommy Wiseau and he's really shit, and the whole point of that film is to just laugh at Tommy Wiseau. That's what sets this one apart, because Tim Burton is trying his absolute best to put Ed Wood up on like a kind of a sympathetic sort of pedestal, which he absolutely fucking deserves, because he's not even fucking talented, but he fucking cares about it. But we're not trying to laugh at Ed Wood. Kind of.
But I think the reason why you laugh at it is because it's so absurd. It's like, how is this person in this situation? And it's what makes that kind of like endearment, is the fact of like, this bloke is a transvestite and he's standing in front of two Christian people that are giving him money, and he's like, I'm making my film, you shut up.
Yeah.
And go away. And it's like, fuck, you've just been baptized because
he baptizes the whole crew.
But that's the thing. Like, I'm endeared to Ed Wood in the same way that I'm endeared to all of Rob's friends. Like, you're all mental, but like in a not lovable kind of way. And
It's as if like he's just entered the friend group.
Yeah. Well, it's stuff like when you go, this thing's happens, and it's like, oh, fucking hell, that was adorable. Like, that was just so fucking.
I'm not that funny.
You are really fucking funny.
you
And
are
I don't care what
hilarious.
you say.
I always remember when we went to
I'm
Manchester.
really not.
I always remember when we went to Manchester, and on the train back, John was like, "Oh, I never noticed how funny Pat was before this trip," and I was like, "Yeah,
Huh?
if you pay attention, you'll laugh."
I might look funny. I'm not funny.
That isn't.
You're very funny. Or even stuff like earlier when Ben asked me if my drawing was of a cheetah or a leopard, and he spelt both cheetah and leopard wrong. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. That's beautiful. I don't even want to correct him.
It's
Like
because
that.
I'm retarded and That's
Oh,
basically.
that could have been an Edward quote itself.
You've killed Alex.
I'm just like, oh fucking hell, you guys are so cute. I love it.
But that's the thing.
Unlike
that,
Alec.
Cute.
Unlike me,
What a
I-
dirty word.
I'm the odd one out.
that's the difference between this and the disaster artist, though, isn't it? Because like when you're laughing at something that Edward said, it's not laughing in a way of like, oh, isn't this guy an idiot? It's laughing in a way of like, oh, I wish I could have that attitude. Like when he says like, oh, my next one's going to be the one that I'm remembered for, and like all of this like mental like optimism without any basis. Like you're not kind of going like, oh, he's such an idiot for thinking that. You're thinking like, man, that if only I had that belief in myself.
Yeah, it's endearing as fuck. And it's I'll watch stuff about Edward all day. Like he's a nice chap.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah.
He's no
He didn't
Francis Ford
sneeze.
Coppola.
He didn't sneeze. He said, "Bless him."
There you go.
That's
Pat
me
being-
trying to be funny.
Pat
and
being
it didn't
funny.
work.
Bless you.
That's the thing. It's when you're not. It's when you're not trying to be funny. That's when you're funny.
Yeah. That's
If
when
you-
you're trying to be funny and such.
If you just never thought about it and you just kept talking, we'd never survive because it's hilarious. But yeah, there's one thing that I do have a problem with Edward, and that is shut the fuck up.
All of it.
No, that's you. I think it's brilliant. But yeah, the lady who Sarah Jessica Parker is playing, she saw this and felt that she wasn't treated like very fairly in it, and like they did really, her and Ed really did love each other, and she like did want to help him like get his stuff out there and that. And I think like to characterize her the opposite way is kind of, I think they could have stood to depict her a little more accurately, just because when I'm watching it, because I'm not saying you can't make changes when you're adapting stuff like this, because you do kind of have to, it's the nature of the beast, but it's kind of the reasons for it. And it's sort of I think the point is they kind of made her character like a little nastier, I guess, just to kind of give Ed like a little bit of opposition and to make him meeting up with Patricia Arquette like a little fluffier. But I think it has the effect of me going like, why are you here? Because she has reason to be shitty at him, but because they're not like established to have like this like loving connection that well early on.
Yeah,
I'm like, why are you even tolerating this at this point? Like you don't seem to enjoy him doing it. You don't seem to enjoy being there. You don't seem to enjoy anyone else being around. So why are you here?
Yeah.
And I think if you showed her being more of that side of her being like loving, and that could have strengthened that part of that would negate my problem with it.
Yeah, it's a shame really, because I think I get why they did it, because I think her being that way, it does kind of, it almost justifies Edward a little bit more, because I think by having, because she's pretty much the villain of it all, and she's kind of like to have the villain of it all being the one who's saying like, oh, this isn't worth spending your time on, and Edward kind of going like, no, it is, and even though he's not very good at it, kind of going forward with it and that kind of thing. I think that's quite a nice thing, because it's like it kind of reinforces that it's not necessarily important that it's good or bad. It's just that he's got the passion to do it, and that's what's important. So I think it kind of, I think it makes Edward stronger, but I do agree that it's perhaps not a very nice thing for them to have done with her character.
But it starts making me question things like why she's even in the plot that long if she hates it so much.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a reason she keeps showing back up. but you didn't feel the need to tell us why she keeps showing back up. So that's why I gave it a 9 for story. Like, I love it, but there is that little niggle there that I'm like, I wish she kind of spent some time on it.
It's the fact that when she gets angry at him being dressing up in women's clothes, and then next thing she's completely fine with him. Like in one scene, she's really annoyed, and then she's just okay. And then when she finds out that she's being replaced, then she gets angry, and then she kind of just goes back to normal. And then she just says to him, "Oh, why can't you? Why are you freaks or something?" And then she goes, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, there's like no in between scene, because she goes from being pissed off that the script's about them to doing a take where she takes her shirt off and gives it to him, and then she's really happy they did the take. And it was like, hang on, no, hold on, you're not happy to this. Why are you reacting in that way?
To be honest, her best bit of dialogue is when she says that people say she looks like a horse.
That's the point, actually. I'm surprised she didn't even like that, Pat.
I like the joke I made about it myself.
What was that?
I can't remember. I've just fooled a Chris Kamara, ain't I? I like the joke I pulled. What was that? I can't remember. I remember, Rob.
Pat,
Pat.
Alec again.
I love you so much.
I am surprised you didn't like that joke. I thought you'd have at least gone like, oh yeah, fair enough. That was a good one.
I think your joke was literally like, yeah, you do love. I think that was what you said.
Yeah, if that was the joke you made, then you do like that joke, because that is the joke.
Yeah, but I didn't laugh at it.
What do you mean you didn't?
I just made a commentary of it.
Yeah, but if you like that commentary, then you must have liked the joke, because that was the joke.
I'm gonna pass out.
Oh, Patrick. Right, sorry, we did Pat's favourite bit. What's Humphrey's favourite bit?
Oh shit.
What's Rob's favourite bit?
Shit. I did know.
That's all right. You think about it. Rob, what was your favourite bit?
It's a bit like last week for me, man. I've got so many favourite bits, but probably any time that Ed Wood is just being like ridiculously optimistic, that's where I'm like most into it. And like I said last week, that Brian De Palma's like somebody who, like, when somebody's being like really enthusiastic about him, I'm kind of like, yeah, you go, yes, that's brilliant. Like, and I kind of get the same thing with Ed Wood when he's being like that optimistic about himself. So anytime where he's going like, my next one's going to be my best, or my next one's going to be better, or like that, I'm like, yes, Ed Wood, you tell him. And yeah, that's just my favorite. It's not a scene, but that's my favorite part of it. It's just his like ridiculous optimism.
Fair. Okay, Humphrey, you've had some thinking time. What you got?
Mine's similar to Rob's, but in the way of bloke who plays Dracula. He's you said his name a few times. I can't remember. No,
Boris Karloff, yeah.
No, he didn't play Dracula. He played the mummy. No, but he does his dialogue when it says some of these lines, and they're so perfect. And you just sit there, and it's just that bit in the film. It kind of you come out of this kind of like semi-serious kind of biopic, and it's like he says these lines, and you kind of stop, and you're like, whoa. And then it goes back to the film. It's just the bloke who portrays him is so great. Like when he's sitting there in the chair, and he says that creepy line, and they're all looking at him like, what the fuck? And then yeah, like when he's on the street and he says his lines and it's impromptu and he's like, what? And then the people start clapping him and they get his autograph. Like his progression for the film was just, yeah, so great.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to go Ben last, so and it's all about me. So my favorite scene. Nobody asked. I also don't know what my favorite scene is. I think though. I should go through to mention that scene where she chucks the frying pan. That had me fucking rolling. I wasn't expecting it to hit him with it.
Oh yeah. And she throws it and it fucking, she doesn't even like spin it. It's just a straight throw and bash him on the head. Great. There's the great fun.
But other than that, I think I like the thing where they're on the spook house, and like the ride like stops, and they have the little conversation about him being a transvestite and her being accepting of it, and then as soon as she says that's okay and he's like confirmed it, the ride comes back on. I really like that, and I feel really happy for him in that moment, and I'm just like
yeah, because it kind of shows you his character progression from the start when he's kind of he doesn't want to like express himself in that way, and then he's found the woman that he loves and wants to marry, and he's, instead of being like, oh, I'm just going to skirt around the issue, he literally just stops and says, I dress up with clothing. And to have the balls to do that to someone completely new that you don't know anything about is got to be like.
Well, I think he recognizes that introducing that so late in his and Dolores's relationship, like that was kind of the main thing that made her freak out so much. So he's like, I'm going to circumvent that, and I'm going to just say it right now. And the fact that it works, I'm just really happy with him. We've spent like, I don't know, a good hour and a half or so with him by that point, and I'm just really happy he found a lady with that. Also, I like his premiere of Plan 9. I thought that was really nice. As I mentioned before, like when he starts miming along with the monologue, and then there's this really cheesy fucking scream, and he's like, I think that's a really, really sweet scene. But I'll stop talking now because we need to talk about Ben's favorite scene.
Oh, fucking film.
It's good. I did mention that Orson Welles bit was one of my favorites, but other than that, I would probably say the bit where he's actually, where you mentioned he's got the producers in his film, and he's in the what were they? Were they Catholic or something? Or what? Baptists, yeah. And I think I mentioned this in the chat, is that oh, we can't have this. There's grave robbing. That's sacrilegious and all that. Yeah, but it's grave robbers from outer space. That's the title of the movie. So even despite how ridiculous Ed Wood is, there's still idiots out there like them that are kind of like, they didn't actually pay attention to the script. They just like, well, let's just make this to make money.
This is obscene, but it's a film.
But then later on, he goes, actually, Plan 9, that's actually a really good title. I just what we're doing.
That is a fantastic little scene there, and he's just like, Plan 9, you know what? That was a good job. And I was like, oh, yeah. Right. He's just he didn't like it, and he's warmed up to it, and he's like, no, I'm going to make it part of my cheese. It's going to be brilliant. Excellent. Right, I need a piss, so I guess you guys should talk about Mars Attacks for
I need to go for a wee as well.
A little bit. You have like a minute or so. Depends on if I fall over or not.
I'll
If I fall over, take 3.